Dis vir my so lekker om vanoggend met Wandile Sihlobo te gesels van Agbiz. Wandile, welcome to GROOTplaas once again. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. Wandile, we are nearing the end of the year, and how will you say that the agricultural sector perform in 2024? I know it might be a mouthful.
Yeah, I would say this has been one of the eventful and challenging years for the sector. But of course, it depends on where one is sitting, because we know that when we're looking at the South African agricultural sector, we usually segment it into about 3 subsectors. You have your field crops, which is your grains and your oilseeds and sugarcane. And then you have your horticulture, which is the fruit and vegetables. And then you would have your livestock and poultry. And I would say great difficulty has been on the field crop because of that mid-summer drought that negatively affected much of our grains and the oilseeds, to an extent that if you were to look at the overall harvest for the 2023-24 production year, it was down by roughly 23%. But if you look in the field crops broadly, thinking about now the sugarcane, I would say there the guys were able to somewhat continue with the activity slightly better, and even more better when you were thinking about the horticulture in general.
Yes.
Because although we were hit by that midsummer drought of February, March, there the guys were able to irrigate, and thanks to the stable electricity. And lastly, in the livestock and the poultry sector, I think the major difficulty this year has been the animal diseases and the higher feed costs. So 2024, really a challenging but broadly mixed year for agriculture in South Africa.
Now, with the GNU, there is optimism across the country. Are we seeing the same optimism in the agricultural sector?
Absolutely. I would say the GNU has brought a sense of change in the sector. I mean, you will remember in the second quarter, before the formation of the government of national unity, there was a lot of uncertainty, to an extent that a tool that we use to measure sentiment in the sector, which is called the Agbiz IDC Agribusiness Confidence Index. It reached its lowest level since the financial crisis of 2008-09 that time. But right after the formation of the GNU, when we measured in the third quarter about what the sentiment was like, we're seeing the mood improving in the sector. But I think there are other things that have added to that improvement in the mood. In addition to better politics of the country, we also realized that the input cost, fertilizer prices, for example, are down this year by roughly 10%, agrochemicals down 20%, and these form a large component of the farmers' input costs. So they are adding to this optimism that is already there, and perhaps maybe setting us well for the upcoming seasons.
Yes. What would you say are the production prospects for 2025? I actually can't believe we're already talking about 2025. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's the year goes fast.
It
and
does.
I would say when I look into 2025, we're now already speaking about the prospects of a La Nina occurrence.
Yes.
And we all both know that a La Nina here in Southern Africa, it brings above normal rainfall.
Yes.
Now, if we factor in then that the La Nina materializes, and we add onto that the fact that the farmers themselves, they plan to plant a slightly higher area than they planted last year, this time around. And if you drive across South Africa, you already see that folks are busy in the fields, tilling the land.
Yes.
So on those perspectives, I'm looking at 2025 with really great optimism, and thinking that the 2024-25 production season will be a period of a recovery, not only for us in South Africa, but indeed the entire Southern Africa.
Yeah. That's wonderful. It's so exciting to hear. Regarding agricultural policy, what can we expect under the GNU?
That's a big and a challenging one.
Yes.
Because right now you have all of these political parties really sitting on the table. They come from their manifestos with their varying views about how they think South Africa should be governed. But of course, we know from the finance minister's statement a few weeks ago that around about March, there will be a release of a GNU paper. We are involved in some of those working in various platforms that we engage with. And I would say, in as far as agriculture, the starting point, which the agricultural minister has made that point clearly, is that the agriculture and the agro-processing master plan remains the guiding theme of policy in the sector. And in addition to that, there has to be a clear focus on the government's intention to release the land with title deeds to many beneficiaries. We have to address the issue of animal diseases, and there has to be an intense focus on widening the export markets. And there are other administrative things like dealing with Act 36 that needs to be modernized. That's the act that addresses the registration and the imports of agrochemicals, which are key for agricultural productivity. So there's a number of those things. But I think what I would present to the viewers today is that there is a sense that we are heading towards a much more favorable policy environment, and we are deeply engaged in some of that process. And the master plan, which all South Africans have seen, is the guiding principle for agriculture, even in the 7th administration.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about land reform, can we expect any changes in policy under GNU or action in government to release state-to-land beneficiaries?
I mean, you're raising an important point here now, because if we think about agriculture being a major contributor to growth in the sector under this period of a GNU, it's a one thing of saying, well, we'll address all of the hindrances for land that is already being farmed. But it's another thing when we're saying we need to grow the South African agricultural pie. And growing the South African agricultural pie entails bringing underutilized land into full production. And I must tell you, the conversations that we have had with colleagues in government, and that people like Minister Nyonso of the Land Affairs have also had, is that we will now begin to be releasing the land with title deeds to appropriately selected beneficiaries. And I think those beneficiaries then have to work with the people that are responsible for blended finance on ensuring that there is financing in that land. But even after that process, commodity associations must be involved, because there's a skills and the training that needs to be done to ensure that people can farm effectively. But what I think what's at the core and important point under the GNU is that there's no talk of expropriation without compensation. The focus is on taking the land that is in the government's hands, releasing it to appropriately selected individuals, and making sure that we grow the agricultural pie in South Africa.
Wandile, just because I'm very interested in this, can we indicate how much state land there is available? Do we have a lot of land under government?
I mean, look, we have a lot of land under government, because take, for example, how much land now we plant as a country in all of our grains and oilseeds. We produce in about 4.5 million hectares. That's all of the grains that we plant. The government currently has in its book now about 2.5 million hectares of land under the plus, the proactive acquisition strategy. So that's almost more than half of what we are currently planting. That gives you a sense then of what's available there. And this way makes it very important, because when we think about the expanding agriculture, growing the agricultural pie, it is that particular land that gives one much hope that we can make further inroads in transformation.
And when you are talking about growing the agricultural pie, we are also focusing on food security, right? Which is much needed as we go on.
Absolutely. I mean, South Africa struggles with a couple of things. If you were to think about the triple challenge that we face as a country, it's high unemployment, it's slow growth, and of course, poverty. And we know from literature that agriculture is 2 or 3 times more effective in reducing poverty than growth in other sectors of the economy. So when we are thinking about expanding the agricultural pie, we are hitting directly on those problems of poverty and making sure that we enhance our food security at a household and at a national level. And secondly, the job creation, which is why the new farmers that are coming in has to be focused on commercial farming, not just smallholder farming, because jobs will come from commercial farming.
Just lastly, Trump is the new US president. Are there any fears in terms of South African agriculture?
I mean, look, President Trump has made his point clear during the campaign, and he tends to follow up on these things, which he was saying he will protect the U.S. Environment, and he will put all kinds of tariffs in place, 20% across everyone and 60% to China. And as South Africa then, I mean, China is one of our largest trading partner. And if they are hit by the tariffs and their economy slows, that brings question about the demand for a range of our products in there. But also the other reality is that China is one of the biggest buyers of agricultural products. They account for 11% of global agricultural imports. If then China retaliates and put tariffs on the U.S. products, the U.S. may decide to search for other locations for their products and thereby increasing competition for South Africa. And that too can bring its own difficulties. This is all to say that with President Trump coming into place and his hawkish trade policy, there's a lot more risk in the world. But really, we'll be able to have a judgment on the stuff as the year goes by. And he will take power in January, and I think around about February, March, we will begin to have a clearer sense of which policies is he prioritizing.
I just want to take a moment and look at 2025 that's lying ahead. I think there's obviously amazing prospects lying ahead. What are some of the big challenges you think we just need to be on the lookout for?
I mean, I think for me, the key thing that we have to prioritize in South Africa's agriculture at the moment is addressing the logistics difficulties.
Yes.
Improving the roads, the railway line, and the ports is everything. And you layer that by searching for export markets, retaining the markets that we already send our products to, but also expanding opportunities in BRICS and elsewhere. Within BRICS, priority should be China, India, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. So exports and logistics are everything. And if there's anything I could add on that is that we need to continuously improve biosecurity, plant health and animal health. Those for me are the key important things that South African agriculture should focus on. Because if we do those and we do them right, even when we release land for the new beneficiaries and they come into the sector at a commercial level, they will come into a sector that is already vibrant, that will be able to absorb their product and ensure their sustainability in their business activities.
I love that you use the word vibrant, because that is what South African agriculture is, right? It's so vibrant and colourful and lively.
Absolutely. We are in a vibrant and a growing sector, and which also ensures that it creates lots of jobs for a number of South Africans. Nearly 1 million jobs at a primary level, and of course over 300,000 jobs at a value chain level. So we are in a sector that is vibrant.
That's really amazing. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you and good luck with your day.
Thank you.